Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. It is July 24th. I'm Mark, the host and founder of Take 2 Minutes, and I'm joined by our wonderful co hosts, Heather, Jamie, and Ashley. We're hoping
Hello.
to answer some questions from viewers and users today, and we're going to let Ashley moderate the question. So over to you, Ashley.
Yeah, so we, over the last week or so, have been collecting some questions in a few different ranges. So we had some come in about Take 2 Minutes specifically, some that are more general mental health, and then some that catered to more of the mind-body connection of how like nutrition can affect your mental health. So I think the obvious place to start this is we received a question about what does Take 2 Minutes do? What is it? And so I feel like that is the obvious place to start. So Mark, I will let you answer that one.
Very good. Thanks, Ashley. Take 2 Minutes is a whole suite of activities that were created by me with input from coaches, counselors, and therapists all along the way. And the activities are all in the realm of positive psychology in an attempt to help individuals get into a more positive mindset, ease anxiety, and or ease depression. The activities, again, there's many different activities, and you can use meditations, you can use gratitude journaling. We have a gratitude challenge. We have a three good things activity. And each of these can help people in a different way. And I think the beauty of the various activities is you can find one that best suits you. And I think that's always the challenge when it comes to mental well-being is find something that helps each individual, because there's many things out there that can help you. And to be honest with you, that's not to say that Take 2 Minutes can help everyone. There's other methods besides just the activities in Take 2 Minutes. And Jamie, obviously being a counselor, counseling is needed by a lot of people. Take 2 Minutes is more of a self-help type mechanism, and the activities in there are meant to either work for you on your own or work for you through you're working with a therapist or counselor. And I've even heard one more thing I'll add to it. A guest we have often is Matt Zeman, and he's very knowledgeable in psychedelics. He actually even uses Take 2 Minutes for his purposes of his clients to use along with the psychedelics to help get into a better state. So sometimes it's accompanying another activity you're doing.
Might unmute. Okay, cool. Yeah, Take 2 Minutes is a great tool. It's a great tool to use if you're still trying to figure yourself out for, mental health wise, if you're using it as a supplement to therapy. The whole team uses it and we love it. So I know toward the end of this, we do have 20% off of Take 2 Minute memberships for people who have joined the live stream. So once this all wraps up, we will put the code in the description for anyone who joined or anyone who even watched after to kind of get the perk of joining in with us. So the next one we got is, and this might be a good one for Jamie, is what are some small things that parents might do that could affect their children's mental health later in life?
That's a loaded question, man. There's a lot to be said about that. I think this whole idea of what do they call it? Soft parenting or something like that. Like
Gentle parenting.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a mess. That's a mess, right? I like the idea behind it because they're kids and you don't need to be too harsh on them. But I think the best thing that you can do for your children is to set very clear expectations for them and have very clear consequences for them, right? Because we think that by letting them just be free and do whatever they want to do, that we're giving them freedom. But what we're really doing is we're making them anxious, right? Because with too much freedom, it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can do anything and I don't know what to do. But when you say, hey, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you're inside this box here, there's safety and security in that because now they know the limits. And look, any child, every child, they're going to push up against that boundary a little bit, but they're not going to like just fly over it and just kind of really be out of control, right? So setting clear boundaries. So like I love to work with my with parents on this. create a value system for the family. Start there. What does it mean to be a Morgan? You know, my son is 15. He'll tell you, hey, well, we're Morgans. We don't lie. Or we're Morgans. We always do the right thing. You know, whatever, right? So you create this hierarchy, this value system. And then you set expectations. And then those expectations should all point to those values. Okay? And then once you have the values set up and the expectations set up, then you go to the child, no matter what age, and you ask them to be a part of it. So you explain the expectations to them. And then you ask them, what do you think would be a good consequence if this happens? If you don't meet this expectation? Children will, most of them, will be harder on themselves than you would be. So you got to temper that, right? That's a little bit too much. What if we did this? But either way, you got to come up with a very clear set of expectations and consequences, and then you have to follow through. Never, ever, ever say, if you do that again, I'm going to do this, and it's something that you wouldn't do, because then they know you as a liar, and they won't trust you.
Yeah, I like that. I like that it also kind of teaches them accountability and what to expect, positive and negative. I think you're right, and that builds very strong humans. Like as they grow up and become adults, that builds strong, like, humans that have integrity. Oh, I cannot find the words.
Yeah, well, because like when you think about it, you know, Jordan Peterson says that we should be proxy of the world to our children, a benevolent proxy, but proxy nonetheless, right? So if you don't have clear expectations and consequences in your home, what's going to happen when they enter the workforce? They're not going to know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's very important. So that was a great question, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess to wrap this up, but to your point, I think that's when you see a lot of like that victimhood in adulthood too, is when they didn't have to even suffer natural consequences as children. Like you said, your parents have a soft spot for you that the rest of the world might not. So when you grow into adulthood and get into the real world, and then you're feeling those natural consequences, then you're just like, oh, why is this happening to me? So I love what you said there,
That's
Jamie.
right. That's right. Thank you. Yeah. I happen to know a little bit about victimhood. I wrote a book about that.
You want to touch on that while I find the next question?
Sure. Yeah, you can look at that real quick. But yeah, so I wrote a book called Master of Circumstance. Mark, you've read that, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much enjoyed the read.
It's all about getting out of that victim mindset, you know.
Cool. And we can plug that in the description too for anyone interested in checking that out. We'll leave a link to that just for easy access.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Heather, this one is for you. I work really hard to eat healthy and get a good night's sleep, but I still struggle with anxiety. What are some things I can do at home to figure out where the anxiety is coming from?
Ooh, okay. So nutritionally speaking, because that could be to all of us.
Yeah, maybe we do. Maybe we do that. We field it to you first, and then anything Jamie and Mark have to add will.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, so yeah, so nutritionally, what you can do is first of all, figure out where are you at, and that's a lot of our problem, is that we need to tear down where we're at. And just picture a renovation like HGTV, right? What do they first do? They tear it down to the frame, and then they do a reframing as needed. That's what we need to do with our nutrition. So figure out what's not working for you. If you're still having stress and anxiety and you're not feeling as good as possible, start with your nutrition. And I say it's really simple. Aim for the rainbow every day. Okay, so rainbow of produce. And look, I wanted to show this harvest. So it's not just my harvest, but it's my neighbors, it's a customer. My basil's looking sad, but I got to use it tonight. So yeah, but get the fiber going, because the fiber is going to feed your microbiome. And that's the key. So the microbiome is our natural jungle that we have in our gastrointestinal tract. We all have it. All of ours are different. And we're seeing a lot of similarities. So wherever in your family, it's very well possible that if you're having anxiety and you're eating these things, it's possible your parents are too, or whoever's in the home with you. So it's something to think about is start with fiber, aim for 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day to start, and do the color of the rainbow. So go red, orange, yellow, green, and then blue and purple are the same color hue. And start with a smoothie in the day. Start your day off right with that smoothie. Another thing to consider is first thing in the morning, having a routine, and that's going to kind of feed over into the other components here, but start with a routine and have part of the routine be something that you do nutritionally to jumpstart yourself. So maybe it's a turmeric tonic shot. I love those. I call it the sunshine shot, right? So you get the turmeric going, it's anti-inflammatory. You throw some ginger in there, some apple cider vinegar with the mother, and we could throw in a recipe if you want, but it's super easy, and it's something, just a little shot to get you going, and that I promise you it will change the whole trajectory of your day.
I want to add on to that, if you don't mind. So I'm a big proponent of fiber, and that's so when Heather and I met initially, I was really excited that she was talking about this. So fiber for me does start in the morning, just what Heather said. So every morning, I'm not affiliated with any of these products, but there's a powder called Gut Health. It's 10 grams of fiber roughly. I start with that and some lemon water almost every morning. And my goal was initially, as you said, 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Currently, though, I start with an apple in the morning, that gut shot. I have an avocado almost every morning. I try to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. I also have started adding these things called Olipop, which are sodas with very low sugar. Yeah, they're great. And they're also a lot of fiber. I'm currently up to something ridiculous like 50 grams of fiber a day, but I have noticed a huge difference over time in my mental health because of that. It's not something you're going to take day one. Matter of fact, if you take 50 grams of fiber day one, you're probably going to spend a lot of time in the bathroom, and you're going to hate it, right?
Like, I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah, you got to build up to it. And I did that exact same thing. I started with 25 or 30 grams was my target, and I just kept increasing it. And over the course of, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, I recognized that my stomach always feels great now, which really helps my mental well-being feel great.
Absolutely. And may I ask a question? Did you notice or did you experience, like a lot of people say, I don't want to do that because I get bloated or I feel gassy. Did you have any of that?
Yeah, I think off and on I have, and I think I can attribute it to my sugar consumption quite often. So my bloat usually comes from the days where I do have, I don't know, ice cream after dinner. Then, that night I feel some bloat. Or if I limit my sugar intake more, the bloat is less.
Gotcha. Yep. Perfect.
At least that's what I've witnessed.
Yeah, for sure. And, and those of us, I wanted to just kind of plug, you can drink fennel tea or just have fennel seeds in your food. And that actually, like, just picture Pac-Man, like chomping away at the gas and bloat. So
let me ask you about that, Heather. So I actually, a few times when I do feel a little bloated, which is very rare anymore, I actually will take a handful of fennel seeds and chew on them because I really love the flavor of fennel. Is that okay if you chew them up really well? And
sure. Yeah. Just making sure, right. Don't choke or anything, but yeah, that'd be great. I've never heard anyone just like, chomp it up.
They're delicious, I think. I don't know. They're good on salmon too. How about that?
Ooh, that's awesome. Honestly, I love it as I do it with my like a pizza, and I make it with cashew cream instead of cheese. And oh my gosh, it tastes just like legit pizza. So yeah, I hear you.
I think this question is also, we're going to let Jamie weigh in.
Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So anxiety, there's a lot to be said about that, right? And what can we do health-wise with anxiety? Obviously, caffeine, get rid of that stuff, right? Because caffeine causes anxiety or can contribute, doesn't cause it. But also just mindset and having a routine. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly, right? But your mind loves predictability. So when you have a routine, there is predictability built in. It's like, I know I do this, I know I do this, I know this is coming, right? So you control what you can control and you delegate what you can't control, or just don't worry about it. Either way, however you want to look at that, right? So that's the routine part of this is really important. Now, another trick that I have done, or that I teach people to do as well, is I like for my client, for the person, whoever, review your to-do list right before you go to bed. Now, what that does is that helps you be comforted knowing I got to wake up at this time and I'm going to hit the ground running because I know what I'm doing in the morning.
Wow.
Right? It's not wake up and it's like, oh man, what do I got to do today? Oh, there's so much to do. Because see, when you think about this, when it's in your head, whatever it is, when it's in your head, it feels really big. And we've all experienced this, right? You got your to-do list. You're like, man, I got so much to do today. Then you write it down. You're like, oh, I'll be done by noon. This is pretty good. Right? Because you start looking at it. But in here, it's like, oh, it's so big.
Right.
Get it out of here and onto your paper. Right? Figure out what you're going to do. And then now it's like, okay, I can take a deep breath. It's not as big as I thought it was. It's going to be okay. And then that's going to help me sleep. So routine and then mindset, right? Anxiety comes from focusing on the future. Depression comes from focusing on the past, right? So if you can just realize that, look, man, I can't control the future anyway, then I can just control what I can control and let things come at me.
Right.
Yeah. And to add to, I guess, to really drive those 2 points home that pretty much everyone here said of the routine, something that, as not an expert in anything but my own life, Mark and I talk about this a lot, actually, is I earlier this year started waking up at 5:30 in the morning every morning, and I've never been able to do that. And I just forced myself to do it. And incorporating a routine in waking up so early has completely changed everything. So I don't get as much sleep during the week, but I still feel better because when 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock rolls around, and some days there are fires, I've already had 4 hours of being alive and awake to handle it, where it's not the first thing I'm seeing in the morning. So I've already watched Bailey. I've already had a good breakfast. I've like filled my body with things that are healthy for the sake of this. But I have the energy because I've eaten something, and that I'm not just so reliant on caffeine, and then I'm not jittery and then freaking out because the first thing I'm seeing in the morning is someone complaining or having a problem. So again, to validate and confirm what everyone said, that routine works well. Go ahead, Jamie.
Ashley, to just add on to that just a little bit, because that's another thing that I was reminded of. Not hitting the snooze button helps a ton.
Yeah.
I'm a snoozer.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, I just get up.
But I'm telling you,
Okay.
instead of hitting the snooze button, set your alarm for when you need to wake up. So a lot of people, right? They're like, I got to wake up at 7:30. I'll set my alarm for 7 and then I'll snooze until 7:30. That it makes your day so much worse. And here's the other thing. If you wake up before your alarm and you're just like, man, I feel like I'm awake. I know I got 20 minutes to sleep still, but get out of bed.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, we can get a little bit more hippy dippy too. Then what you should do is get your tail outside barefoot and look at the sun.
Yes.
Grounding and sun
That
gaze. I agree.
grounds you.
Amen.
I know it sounds so hippy dippy, but listen, man, there's a lot to it and it works.
Vitamin D is huge for the body.
Is there a safe way to
Right.
do that? Because I don't want people just walking outside, just staring at the sun.
You can only do it 30
No.
minutes before sunrise and then
Okay.
30 minutes
That's
before
right.
sunset. Mhm.
Okay. That's good
right.
to know.
So because it's at the horizon, so you're not getting that UVA and B into your eyes. But man, we could deconstruct a lot of stuff here right now, but
That's huge.
I don't want to go deep into it, but there is a lot of research that shows barefoot in the grass and looking at the sun. Like here's something just about the sun. I don't wear sunglasses anymore.
Either.
And I don't get burned anymore.
Interesting.
Wow.
So there's a correlation between wearing sunglasses and getting sunburned, because when your sunglasses are off, your brain actually gets the notice of like, oh, we're in the sun, send the melanin to your skin to protect us.
Interesting.
But when you have sunglasses on, it shuts it down, and that's why you get burned so bad.
Huh. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
I can buy that.
It's
The body's pretty
wild.
amazing. The body's amazing at taking care of itself.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes,
And the earth was made to charge us. So
That's
we're
right.
electrical, we're batteries, and we plug in by being barefoot on the ground. Yeah. It's amazing.
yep. It's wild, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good segue, I guess, into the next question that is for everyone, just because we've talked about routines and how it's helped us feel better. This question was, what is the single most effective piece of mental health advice you've ever received?
Don't be attached to the outcome.
Ooh.
That's it. Don't be attached to the outcome. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And it's going to work out how it's going to work out because you're not in control of it anyway. I could do the right thing and you could completely mishear it or just not be receptive to it or whatever. So I just control me. So me not being attached to the outcome is I just do what I do and it's going to work out how it's going to work out. That took so much pressure off of me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now I don't have to worry about performing. I just do what I do.
And I think that ties into what you said earlier with that value system of, as long as you know you've like acted within that value system, you have almost like that self-validation of, regardless of the outcome, I'm still a good person, or I'm still competent or capable, or whatever that value system is. So I really like that. I like how those two tie together.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
I think
100%.
there's a lot of messages in Take 2 Minutes that I've written that it could answer for that question, but I'm going to instead say something I recently read, which I really like this saying, and I wish I knew who it was from. I don't know who it originated from, so I'm quoting someone else who I don't know. I read it someplace, and it's someone made this up, I'm certain, but I really like it. And that is that a bird doesn't land on a branch or a twig with confidence that branch or twig is going to hold the bird. The bird lands on the branch or twig with the confidence it can fly away if that branch or twig fails. And I really like that because it's giving confidence in yourself is what the analogy is there, having confidence in your ability and not external abilities you can't control.
That is
Yeah, I
awesome.
like that.
Yeah, I really like that too, because I've seen in my 20s, and I think we probably all went through this in our 20s, is like there's a big confusion between arrogance and confidence. And when I thought I was confident, I was just being arrogant, but I was so easily rattled. And then when I didn't realize I was a confident person at all, my dad was like, no, you are. It is like kind of like Marc stated, that confidence in knowing that if something goes wrong, you can handle it. And that was a big differentiator for me. So I love that you brought that up, Marc.
That's so good.
So what that describes though is the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because now, Jordan Peterson talked about that. He's so smart and he's in there reading these books and he's like, do I want to be a lawyer or do I want to be a psychologist? So he just reads everything, right? And he started using the stuff that he was reading. And then what he figured out later, he's like, I didn't have the the word that he used is like, I didn't have the experience to be able to use the knowledge that I had. And really what he was describing is I didn't have the wisdom. So I knew it, but I really wasn't allowed to use it yet because I don't have the years to back it up. Right. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Like your arrogance, like, well, I know everything. As you become wise, what you figure out is you don't know anything.
You don't know anything, yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah,
I know what I know, but
Right.
that's it. That's all I don't even know. Like, it's like, well, it could be this, but I'm not positive.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes along with, we talked about it, how gratitude and anxiety can't coexist. Like, I think that's the biggest helper
I
for
like
me.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So even just today, you touched on this also. I follow a gal on Instagram and I was commenting like positively, and she just said something that people took it the wrong way. And I was flabbergasted, and I started getting anxious about their responses because it was not very kind, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I noticed the anxiety, and I'm like, okay. So I ran to the kitchen. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. I made a smoothie. Like, I'm just like, you had to get in that zone and get away from the anxiety path, because that could just, I can see how it happens so quickly for people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do like that.
love
I got one more if you want me to share one more.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then we have, I think that was the last question. So after you, Jamie, then I guess we can wrap this up. So give us your wisdom. Give us what you got.
An offense is something that happens to you. Being offended is a choice.
Ooh.
Correct.
Say it again.
An offense is something that happens to you, but being offended is a choice.
Okay.
And there's a lot of take 2 minutes messages that correlate with that too, that really being offended by someone, you're making a decision to let that person bother you or bug you, or you're taking it internally. And this could go in many ways, I believe. Other people's opinions of you. Something I say to people all the time is, if you're doing your best, and I mean truly doing your best in a situation, and you're not lying to yourself about doing your best, if you're really doing your best and someone else isn't happy with you, that's really on them. If you're trying your best at something, you should have some confidence that you really tried your hardest. And if someone's unhappy with you, that's an external factor you shouldn't let affect you.
There's a saying I like to tell my mom a lot is, I mean, it started with like a piece of clothing, and then it somehow resonated with me was, you're not my demographic, or I'm not your demographic. And that's all it is.
Great. Does anyone have anything else they want to add this profound, since we are about out of time? I don't want to cut anybody short.
Nope, I'm good.
Good. Well, this was our first official live stream. I appreciate all three of you, Jamie, Heather, and Ashley. Thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for helping. And we're going to do this again next week on Wednesday at noon Central Time again for another half hour. Hopefully we'll have some more questions, and maybe we can even have some more live questions at that point in time. But I appreciate everybody joining. As Ashley said, we will put a discount code in the comments for Take 2 Minutes if you listen to this podcast. And I appreciate everybody's time who is on here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.